Before we begin today, my leading ladies, I want you to imagine yourself standing at a doorway. Listen, behind you is a season that taught you things you didn't know you needed to learn. There was a relationship that changed you, boundaries you had to establish, moments when you were tired but still had to, guess what, lead, and times you questioned whether God was delaying you, only to discover He might have been developing you. There were things you had to heal from, things you had to release, and things you had to stop going back to. And now you're standing at the doorway of what's next. But before you walk through it, I want you to ask yourself a question. What are you taking with you? Because here's what I've learned, my leading ladies. We've spent so much time asking God, what's next? We spend the time asking, where are you taking me? We spend the time asking, when is the door going to open? And when will things change? So sometimes before we ask what's next, we need to decide what gets to go with us on the next level. Because every lesson doesn't require you to carry the pain that was taught within it. Every relationship doesn't deserve access to your next level. Every version of you isn't supposed to make the journey. Every pattern that helped you survive where you've been may not be healthy enough to lead you where you're going. So today isn't just another episode. This is our season finale, and I don't want you to spend it simply reviewing everything that we've talked about. I want us to do something more important. I want us to decide, what are we actually going to do different because of what we have learned? So go ahead, pour yourself a lovely cup of tea. Find somewhere to settle in. Come on, take me along with the ride, and also bring a journal. And meet me right here in the Royal Courts in a few minutes.
Get ready for the RoyalTEA Talk show with host Portia Basham, the podcast designed for women who are looking to be inspired, motivated, and encouraged. Whether you're just starting out in your career or raising a family, the RoyalTEA Talk show has something for you. This is your opportunity for empowerment and affirmation. Get blessed with amazing stories from women of all walks of life who want to share their truths and victories and impact the lives of women everywhere. This is your cordial invitation to join us as we sip tea, chat, and empower each other on the RoyalTEA Talk show and podcast with your host, Portia Basham.
Well, welcome to the RoyalTEA Talk podcast, the place where faith meets real life. We have honest conversations about the things women are thinking about the things we are feeling, we are navigating through, and sometimes struggling to put into words. Well, I'm your host, Dr. Portia Basham, and around here, we are interested in conversations that will heal us, that will make us think differently. We are interested in conversations that will teach us to lead ourselves well, strengthen our faith, and move forward with greater clarity and purpose. So now that you've poured yourself a lovely cup of tea, settle in. And let us have this final conversation for our season, and let's take it to the little real knit and grit in the Royal Courts. So, my leading ladies, this one thing feels a little different because we've made it. This is our season finale, and when I started thinking about what I wanted our final conversation to be for the season, I kept going back to where we began. We began the season talking about becoming her, the woman God is calling you to be. And throughout the season, we have talked about what becoming actually requires. We've talked about protecting your peace. We've talked about friendships that drain your purpose. We've talked about being called and tired. We've talked about healing whilst you're still leading. We've spoken about the soft life that God actually wants for us. We've actually, we've asked whether God might be developing us instead of just delaying us. We've talked about boundaries. We've wrestled with knowing that God's will when we feel stuck. We've talked about moving on without actually healing. And most recently, we've spoken about stopping the cycle of going back to what God has already brought us through. And when I look at all of these conversations together, I realize something. The entire season has really been about one thing: Becoming requires something from you. Becoming isn't a cute word, baby girl. It's not just something you put on a t-shirt. It's not simply a declaration, but becoming requires decision. It requires boundaries. It requires healing. It requires honesty. It requires trust. And sometimes it requires rest. Yes, I said it. Sometimes it requires just leaving. So today I want to ask, after everything we've spoken about, who, my leading ladies, are you becoming? And the equally important question is, what can no longer go with you in your next season? So, we loved talking about our new seasons, don't we? Baby girl, we do. We talk about the new beginnings, we talk about new doors, we talk about new relationships, we talk about new opportunities, fresh starts. We love scriptures about God doing new things. We pray, Lord, I'm ready. But are we really ready though? Because sometimes we want the new season while still holding on to old habits. Sometimes we want the healthy relationships whilst we still hold on to unhealthy boundaries. Listen, we want the peace whilst continuing to give everybody unrestricted access to us. We want the purpose without releasing the distractions. We want that confidence whilst continuing to build our identity around other people's approvals. We want rest while still believing our worth is connected to how much we accomplish. We want God to lead us forward whilst keeping one hand wrapped around what he's asking us to release. And then we wonder why our transitions feel so uncomfortable. Maybe, my baby girl, sometimes the tension isn't that God hasn't opened the door, but maybe the tension is that we're standing at the door carrying too much. And that's the image I want you to keep throughout our conversation today. You are standing at that doorway, and because you cross it, we're checking the luggage. We are going to check your baggage whilst we are crossing over that doorway, because everything you carry through last season does not deserve space, my leading ladies, in your next season. So today we're going to look at 5 lessons that we have learned throughout our entire season of the RoyalTEA podcast on our season since finale. We are looking at 5 lessons. First lesson: take the wisdom, not the wound. Oh, Jesus. So here's the first thing I want you to take with you. Take the wisdom, but you don't have to keep carrying the wound. Some of the greatest lessons of your life may have come through experiences you would never choose to repeat. A friendship taught you boundaries. Relationship taught you discernment. Disappointment taught you what? Resilience. A season of burnout taught you that being needed by everyone isn't the same as being healthy. A closed door taught you patience. A betrayal taught you to pay attention to what you once ignored. A season of waiting, my leading ladies, how much of your identity was attached to that achievement? So those lessons matter, but sometimes we make the mistake of believing we have to remain emotionally attached to the pain in order to remember what it taught us. My ladies, you don't. You can remember the lesson without rehearsing the injury every day. You could develop the discernment without becoming suspicious of everyone. You could develop the boundaries without building those walls. You could learn from the betrayal without assuming that everyone you meet will betray you. And you can become wiser without becoming harder. And that, my leading lady, is important, because some women live painful seasons saying, I will never, listen, we've all been there. I will never let anyone do that to me again. That's the first thing we say. And I understand. But be careful though, because protection can quietly become isolation. Discernment can quietly become cynicism. Boundaries can quietly become walls. And wisdom can quietly become fear if we don't heal. So ask yourselves, What did this season teach me that I cannot, teach me that I want to keep without continuing to carry that hurt with me? My leading ladies, lesson number one, take wisdom and release the wound. Lesson number two, take the boundary and leave the guilt. Leave the guilt at the door, my leading ladies. For this season, we talked about relationships and boundaries. And if you've been on this journey with me, perhaps you've started saying no differently. Maybe you stop explaining every decision. Maybe you've realized that peace doesn't require everyone to agree with you. But here is something that often happens when women begin establishing the boundaries. We establish the boundaries, and then guess what? We carry the guilt about it. You say no, then you spend 3 hours wondering whether you were mean by saying no. You didn't answer immediately, then you started wondering, listen, wait a minute. They maybe thought I was upset. You told somebody what you needed and then considered sending another message soon after saying, maybe I should have said it in a nicer way. Maybe I should have said it softer. Maybe I should have reworded it. Anybody's been there? Or is it just me? But if you're going into your next season healthier, you cannot keep treating every boundary as though you've committed an offense. A boundary isn't punishment. A boundary is supposed to communicate, this is what I have capacity for. A boundary is supposed to communicate, this is how I need to be treated. A boundary is supposed to communicate, this is what I could participate in. A boundary is supposed to communicate, this is what I cannot carry. And here's something else though, my leading ladies. Someone else's disappointment does not automatically mean your decision was wrong. Let me say that again. Someone else's disappointment does not automatically mean your decision was wrong. You can be loving and have limits. You can be compassionate and say no. You can forgive someone and change their level of access to you. You can love people deeply without making yourself responsible for everything they feel. So what are you taking into your next season? You are taking the boundary. And what are you leaving at the doors? You are leaving the guilt. So lesson number two is we take the boundary and we leave the guilt. Lesson number three, oh my goodness, my leading ladies. Take your capacity seriously. I think I'm talking to myself. Take your capacity seriously. We talked this season about called but tired. We talked about healing while still leading. And this lesson matters especially for women who are capable. Because capable women can become very skilled at functioning beyond capacity. People look at you and they say, I don't know how you do or what you do. Oh my God. And somewhere inside, you may have started to wear that statement as a compliment until doing everything becomes the expectation. Listen, my leading ladies, just because you can carry something doesn't mean you are assigned to carry it. And just because you are capable of functioning exhausted doesn't mean exhaustion is your calling. Some of you don't need a better time management. You need fewer things that never belonged on your schedule. Some of you don't need another productivity system. You need permission to admit this is too much. And sometimes one of the most mature things you can take into your next season is to respect your own capacity. That means knowing when to rest, knowing when to ask for help, knowing when something is good, but not yours. Knowing that you do not have to attend every invitation, knowing that you don't have to solve every problem or answer every phone call or accept every opportunity. Carry everybody. Sometimes self-leadership sounds like this. I could do this, but I shouldn't. So your next season doesn't need an exhausted version of you trying to prove that you deserve to be there. All I want you to do is to take the purpose and leave the pressure to prove yourself behind. So as we continue, let me take a quick moment break with you. So I want to talk to the authors. I want to talk to the coaches, the entrepreneur, the ministry leader, the expert, or even women carrying a message that deserves greater visibility. I want you to hear me and hear me with your good ear. Sometimes you don't need another idea. You need the right audience to discover the value of what you've already built. And that's why I created the Media Visibility Experience. It's an opportunity for selected guests as yourself to bring your expertise, to bring your story, to bring your book, your ministry, your business, your message into a meaningful RoyalTEA Talk conversation with me. Because visibility isn't about becoming louder. It's about becoming more intentional about where your voice is heard. So if you'd like to learn more, go ahead and send me a quick email to info@portiabasham.com, and my team will be happy to reach out to you and to let you know how we could connect and have you as our guest speaker on the next RoyalTEA Talk show. I'll see you right here in a few minutes.
Want to elevate your leadership skills? Join our Christian Leadership Certification Program, covering team leadership, ministry counseling, financial management, and more. Advance your Christian leadership skills with an accredited certificate program from the esteemed partnership of Christian Bible Institute and Seminary. Visit portiabasham.com/Christian Leadership Certification. Register today and become the Christian leader you are destined to be.
So welcome back, and we are so super excited that you are here. Our topic for today is, what are you taking with you into your next season? And so far we've gone through 3 lessons that we have learned along the whole season of the RoyalTEA Talk podcast. So lesson number 4, we're going to take the lesson from the waiting. One of our conversations this season was, what if God is developing you and not delaying you? Because sometimes we always believe that our waiting is a delay. And I want to bring that back today, because sometimes we leave a waiting season with only one thought: thank God it's over. But what did it develop though? Did waiting teach you patience? Did your waiting teach you discernment? Did your waiting teach you dependence? Did it reveal how uncomfortable you become when you cannot control the outcome? Did it expose your need for validation? Did it teach you to trust God's character when you couldn't trace his timeline? Oh, come on, somebody. Because sometimes we're so focused on the things we're waiting for that we miss the woman being formed whilst we are waiting. And here is where purpose enters this conversation, because purpose isn't simply about carrying or arriving somewhere. It's all about who you become capable of being once you arrive there. And maybe the waiting strengthens something in you that the next season will require. Maybe the no protected something you could not see. Maybe the closed door redirected you on the right path. Maybe the silence taught you how to listen differently. Listen, even maybe the delay within your life, that maybe was the worth wasn't suspended until something happened. So don't rush into what's next and forget what the waiting period taught you. It taught you patience. The waiting period taught you discernment. The waiting period taught you dependence. The waiting period taught you to have a deeper trust, and to leave the belief that nothing meaningful is happening simply because nothing visible is happening. Okay, so our fourth lesson is to take the lesson from the waiting. And our 5th lesson is to take your healing, not your old patterns. So this brings us to one of the most recent conversations. Our last conversation was moving on isn't the same as healing. So remember, you can leave the relationship without leaving the pattern. You can stop speaking to someone and still people please now. You can leave the environment and still overfunction. You could establish the boundary and still feel responsible for everybody else's emotions. You can move forward physically whilst emotionally repeating the same responses. So last week we went even further into our conversation, and we said stop going back. Not just to the person, but stop going back to the patterns. Stop going back to the mindset. Stop going back to the role. Stop going back to the old version of yourself. Because here is what I want you to take with you, my leading ladies, and I want you to understand. Your healing doesn't require you to forget where you've been. It only requires you to stop allowing where you've been to make the decisions for what you are about to do and where you are going. So when the old triggers appear, which they will, ask yourself, what would the healed version of myself choose? Would she choose to have chaos? Would she choose over-explaining? Would she abandon the boundaries? Would she rescue everybody? Would she shrink? Would she begin to be chosen? Would she beg them, please, 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 look at me and choose me? Would she pause? Would she discern? Would she pray? Would she communicate? Would she trust? Would she choose to walk away if necessary? And sometimes healing doesn't look dramatic now. Sometimes healing looks like doing one small thing differently than what you would have done 6 months ago. Listen, nobody applauds you whilst you're doing it. Nobody even knows, but you know. Because the old trigger showed up and it met a new response version of yourself. And that, my little ladies, is growth. So far we have gone through the 5 lessons we've learned over the duration of our podcast season. And now I want to take you all the way back to the beginning. The beginning when we spoke about becoming her, becoming the woman God is calling you to be. And here is something I want you to understand differently now. Sometimes becoming isn't about adding more. Sometimes becoming is subtracting. Less proving, subtracting. Less performing, subtracting. Less explaining, subtracting. Less rescuing, subtracting. Less comparison, subtracting. Less fear, subtracting. Less carrying, subtracting. Less returning, subtracting. And sometimes becoming requires releasing the woman you had been, so you can become the woman you are now free to become. And I want you to be careful right here. So don't despise the old version of yourself now. We don't want to despise the old version of ourselves. She got you here. The old version of yourself, she got you right here at this point. The woman who survived, she got you here. That's the old version. The woman who figured it out, that's your old version. The woman who carried everybody, that's your old version. Listen, the woman who kept on going, that's the old version. The woman who smiled while hurting, that's the old version. The woman who was adaptive to things, that's the old version. The woman who learned how to function in circumstances she didn't choose, that baby girl is the old version. Honor her. Have compassion for her. But don't confuse honoring her with remaining her. Maybe she was exactly who you needed to be then, but that doesn't mean she is who you are required to be now. And perhaps the greatest way to honor her is to let the old version of you rest. So before we move into our final royalty moments of our season, I want to just take one last quick break. And if there is one theme that has run through the entire royalty season, it is the way you lead yourself, the way you lead your life matters. So before leadership became something you do with an organization or a ministry or a team or family, leadership begins with you. It begins with your decisions. It begins with your boundaries. It begins with your emotional intelligence. It begins with your communication. It begins with your self-awareness. So your ability to choose what aligns with where you're going instead of simply responding to what happens around you. And that's the heart behind Lead Yourself First Leadership Workshop. It is an intensive experience designed to help you, the professional, you, your team, you, your ministries, you, your school, and organization strengthen the internal skills that create healthy external leadership. So if your organization is ready for leadership development that begins beneath the title, come on now, begins to give more information to you beyond your titles, beyond your day-to-day duties, go ahead and send me an email at info@PortiaBasham to learn more about the Lead Yourself First workshop. I'm super excited for the teams that we are building, for the organizations we have so far connected with, to work with you and your team. So I'll see you right here in the Royal Courts in a few minutes.
She's been watching, wondering, waiting for the sands of time to give way to a tide of change, when her seas can provide safe harbor to all who reach her shores, and her earthly embrace can soothe your soul. Let her sense of adventure set you free, and her everlasting stars twinkle in your honeymoon skies. She is Saint Lucia. Let her inspire you.
Okay, my leading ladies, for our final royalty moment of the season, I want to imagine again that doorway. You are standing there, behind you. Everything you survived is behind you. Everything you've learned, every mistake, every disappointment, every answered prayer, every unanswered prayer, every person who stayed, every person who left, every version of you that existed along the way. And now in front of you is the next season. You don't know everything that's there in the next season. You don't have all the answers for the next season. You don't even have the entire map for the next season, but you're standing at that doorway, and God isn't asking you to drag everything through it. So what are you taking with you? Are you going to take the wisdom? Are you going to take the discernment? Are you going to take the boundaries? Are you going to take the confidence? Are you going to take the lesson? Are you going to take the testimony? Are you going to take deeper prayer life? Are you going to take the courage? What you learned about yourself, are you taking that with you? Are you taking the evidence that you survived something you once thought that would break you? The proof that God met you there. Are you taking the clarity? My leading ladies, are you taking the healing? And are you taking the woman that you're becoming? But you're going to leave at that door the guilt. You're going to leave the need to prove yourself at the door. You're going to leave the relationship pattern. I want you to leave the version of you who believed love had to be earned. Leave that at the door, my leading ladies. The fear of disappointing everybody, that stays at the door. Leave the pressure to carry everybody. The door. Leave the belief that rests because you became weak. The door. Leave the habit of returning to places God already used to teach you. Leave it at the door. Leave the expectation that everyone has to understand your growth before you allow to grow. Leave it at the door. And here's our final royalty moment for you. Transformation isn't measured by how much truth you've heard. It's measured by what you can no longer return to after the truth has changed you. That's it. Because the entire season of the RoyalTEA Talk means very little if we only enjoyed the conversation. If we were nodded, take notes, shed clips, save quotes, and said, woo, that was for me. Then returning to exactly the same pattern, and truth shall eventually become a decision, and decisions become a life. I want you to be able to take something from there, not just say, oh, that was nice. No, I want you to actually start to walk through the transformations. So our final sip of the season, I have 4 for you. Number 1, take the wisdom. You don't have to keep carrying the wound. Number 2, we spoke about someone else's disappointment does not automatically mean your decision was wrong. Number 3, sometimes becoming isn't an addition. Sometimes becoming is a subtraction. And number 4 is one for the road. You don't have to take everything you've survived into everything that you've prayed for. So I don't want you to finish this episode inspired and then do nothing. So sometime within this week, I want you to take out a journal, make yourself a lovely cup of tea, turn off your phone, and create 2 columns. And at the top of the first column, I want you to write, I'm taking this with me. And at the top, you says, this ends here, your second column. First column, I'm taking this with me. Second column, this ends here. And tell yourself the truth. Undertaking with me, perhaps you will write, I'm taking discernment with me. I'm taking confidence with me. I'm taking boundaries with me into my next season. I'm taking faith with me. I'm taking wisdom with me. I'm taking the capacity to rest into my next season. I'm taking lessons. I'm taking my standards. I'm taking relationship with God. And then under the second column that says this ends here, perhaps you're going to write people pleasing. This ends here. Over-functioning, it ends here. Rescuing, it ends here. Self-abandonment, it ends here. Compassion, it ends here. Constant over-explaining, it ends here. Needing everyone to approve me, it ends here. And returning to unhealthy, relationships because it's familiar, it ends here. We put that under that column. And then I want you to choose one thing from the this ends here column. Not 10, not one, not 10, just one. And ask yourself, what will ending this particular thing actually require me to be different? Because if I'm leaving people pleasing behind, that sounds wonderful until someone becomes disappointed with you. I have boundaries now, sounds wonderful until someone starts to test you. I'm no longer rescuing somebody. It sounds wonderful until someone you love experiences consequences. So write the behavior, not merely the intention, but when this happens, I will do this instead. And that, my little ladies, is where transformation becomes practical. And so now, our final royalty question for the season. I want you to sit with this one. Maybe even pause the episode after I ask that. Here's the question. If you truly believe that God is calling you forward, what can no longer come with you? Think about that. Not what does your friend need to leave. Not what your husband needs to leave, not what your sister needs to leave, not what your co-workers need to leave. Not the woman you're about to send this episode needs to do. No, you. What can no longer come with you? Because sometimes we keep asking God to reveal the next step when the next step is simply refusing to carry what He's already shown you to put down. Lay it down. And because I don't want this season to end with inspiration alone, I want to give you this practical next step. If something came up for you today, listen, a relationship pattern. If whilst I'm talking to you, you started to think of, the people pleasing. Whilst I'm talking to you, you started to think, I'm over functioning. If whilst I'm talking to you, you go, I'm the rescuer. If whilst I'm talking to you, you go, I'm the conflict avoidance. Or simply the realization that there are things you do not want to carry into your next season, I've created a free guided resource called the Relationship Pattern Reset. And inside you'll find 7 reflection questions designed to help you to slow down, recognize what keeps repeating, identify what's underneath it, and decide what you don't want to carry forward. And for this finale, I want you to make use of it, and I want you to use it differently. Don't just download it. Make it your next season conversation with yourself. Sit with it, pray through it, journal through it. Tell yourself the truth, because you don't need another resource you never opened. You need an honest encounter with the pattern you're ready to change. So you'll find the link to download the Relationship Pattern Reset if you go to visit my website, www.sheministriestv.com, and get it. It's a completely free resource, and consider it a gift from me to you as we close our RoyalTEA Talk season. And we could prepare for what comes next. Amen. So, my leading ladies, oh my God, here we are, our final cup of tea for this season. And I think, listen, when I think back over our conversations, I don't want you to remember every title. I don't need you to remember every quote. I don't even need you to remember every lesson. But I hope you remember this. You are allowed to grow. You are allowed to change your mind when wisdom teaches you something new. You are allowed to establish boundaries. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to heal, my little ladies. You are allowed to stop explaining. You are allowed to outgrow a role. You are allowed to admit something isn't working. You are allowed to trust God when you don't have the entire map or see the entire staircase. You are allowed to stop going back. You are allowed to become. And becoming doesn't mean you woke up one morning as a completely different woman. No, becoming happens every time you choose differently. Every time you honor what God has shown you. Every time you tell yourself the truth. Every time you refuse to abandon yourself to keep somebody else comfortable. Every time you choose faith over fear. you are becoming. Every time you rest without apologizing, you are becoming. Every time you walk past a door you once would have reopened, you are becoming. Every time you respond differently to something that once controlled you, my little ladies, you are becoming. So when we began this season, we talked about becoming her, the woman that God is calling you to be. And now we understand something we couldn't fully understand at the beginning. Becoming her isn't only about discovering who she is. It's also about deciding who she no longer has to be. So, as we close this season for the RoyalTEA Talk, I am not going to tell you goodbye. I'm simply going to tell you, keep becoming, keep healing, keep learning, keep listening, keep establishing those boundaries, keep choosing peace, keep trusting God, keep leading yourself well. Keep telling yourself the truth. And when an old season comes knocking, remember what it taught you. Thank God for the lesson and keep walking. So I am your host, Dr. Portia Basham, and it has been an absolute pleasure to sit across this virtual table from you week after week to sip and to spill, and most importantly, to grow together. So thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing this conversation. Thank you for inviting the RoyalTEA Talk into your car, into your kitchen, into your morning walks, into your work days, into your quiet moments. And you, my little ladies, are becoming what God leads you to become for your next season. I pray you don't arrive there carrying everything that you have been through. So take the wisdom, take the faith, go ahead and take your healing, take your lessons, take the woman you're becoming, and leave behind what has already served its purpose. Because your next season doesn't need a perfect you. It needs a present, a healed, a discerned, a courageous, a within you. So, our final season, pour your cup of tea, tell the truth, honor the growth, and remember, you don't have to take everything you've survived into everything you've prayed for. So I'll meet you again at the next table, the next conversation, in whatever God has for us next. Until then, we will meet in the royal courts at our next season. You take care. I love you with the love of Christ. It has been a pleasure having you as our guest. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to the RoyalTEA Talk Show with your host, Portia Basham, the talk show and podcast designed for women who are looking to be inspired, motivated, and encouraged. We pray today's show was a blessing to you. Remember to tune in next time for your regular dose of encouragement and affirmation, so you can hear from other amazing women from all walks of life who share their stories and advice on everything from personal growth to living their dreams. So until next time, we look forward to seeing you to sip some tea, chat, and empower each other on the RoyalTEA Talk Show and podcast.